Look, I am going to be completely honest with you right from the start. My name is Varkesh, and I used to be a strategic intelligence officer for the Kaldreth Empire. Used to be past tense. Notice that? Because what I am about to tell you is the reason why I now spend my days in a bunker 300 meters below the surface of a moon nobody even bothers to name, it drinking fermented grain juice and trying very hard not to think about what happened. But you want to know the story, right? You want to know how the mighty Kaldreth Empire, with its 600 colony worlds and its fleet of 40,000 warships, ended up begging for mercy from a species we thought were basically hairless monkeys with delusions of grandeur? Fine. Sit down. Pour yourself a drink. You are going to need it. It started with New Haven. That was what the humans called it anyway. A dusty little colony world on the edge of what we considered our territory. Well, what we considered our territory. The humans had a different opinion about that, but then again, the humans had opinions about everything. That was one of the things that annoyed us most about them. They had opinions and thoughts and feelings, and they insisted on sharing all of them, constantly, whether you wanted to hear them or not. The colony had maybe 50,000 humans on it, farmers mostly. They grew some kind of grain that they turned into bread, and they raised these stupid-looking animals called cows, and they built little houses with little gardens, and they seemed perfectly content to just exist out there in the middle of nowhere. Our high command looked at New Haven and saw an opportunity. See, we had been watching the humans for about 20 cycles at that point. We had done our research. We knew they had faster-than-light travel, we knew they had weapons, we knew they had some kind of loose governmental structure they called the United Earth Coalition. But we also knew they were soft, weak. They spent more resources on entertainment and art than they did on their military. They had these things called museums where they just kept old stuff in buildings for people to look at. Museums. Can you imagine? So High Command made a decision. We would take New Haven. We would show the humans that the Kaldreth Empire was not to be trifled with. We would demonstrate our superior firepower, our tactical brilliance, our complete and utter dominance over this sector of space. It would be easy, they said. Quick, they said. The humans would probably just abandon the colony without a fight, they said. Commander Threx, blessed be his 16 ancestors, may they forgive him for his stupidity, led the assault. 3 cruisers, 12 frigates, and about 2,000 ground troops. Overwhelming force for a colony of farmers, right? The attack began at dawn. Well, dawn on New Haven. I was not there personally, thank the void, but I saw the recordings. I watched as our ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel above the planet. I watched as Threx sent his message to the colonists below. Attention, human settlement. You are in violation of Kaldreth territorial space. You have 1 standard hour to evacuate this world. Any resistance will be met with immediate and overwhelming force. The response came back within minutes. It was a woman's voice, calm and steady. Her name was Director Lisa Kowalski, the colonial administrator. I will never forget what she said, because her words are burned into my memory like a brand. This is New Haven Colony. We do not recognize your territorial claim. This world was legally settled under United Earth Coalition Charter 73-Alpha. We are peaceful citizens engaged in lawful activity. If you attack us, you will be held accountable under interstellar law. Interstellar law. She actually said that. As if laws mattered when you had 3 cruisers pointed at your planet. Threx, may his name be cursed for all eternity, did not even bother to respond. He just gave the order. The bombardment lasted 6 hours. 6 hours of plasma cannons and kinetic strikes. 6 hours of watching buildings turn to dust, of watching farms burn, of watching everything those humans had built over 10 cycles just cease to exist. When it was over, New Haven was gone. 50,000 humans dead. Every building destroyed. Every farm scorched. Every cow, well, you get the idea. We thought we had won. We thought we had sent a message. We thought the humans would see what happened to New Haven and realize that the Kaldreth Empire was not to be challenged. Oh, how wrong we were! How magnificently, catastrophically, apocalyptically wrong! The first sign that something was off came 3 days later. I was in my office on the capital world of Kaldros Prime, reviewing intelligence reports, when my assistant, a nervous fellow named Pix, came running in without even knocking. Sir, you need to see this." I looked up from my datapad, annoyed. "Pix, I have told you 1,000 times to knock before entering my office. What is so important that you forgot basic protocol?" He thrust his own datapad at me, his hands shaking. "It is the humans, sir. They are mobilizing." I took the pad and looked at the data. Then I looked again, because surely I had misread it. This says they are mobilizing their entire fleet. All of it. Every single ship they have. "Yes, sir?" "That is over 800 vessels." "Yes, sir." "Why would they mobilize their entire fleet over one colony?" Pix just stared at me. "Sir, we killed 50,000 of them." I waved a hand dismissively. 50,000 is nothing. We have worlds with populations in the billions. Surely they understand that sometimes there are acceptable losses in the course of territorial disputes? But even as I said it, I felt a small knot of worry forming in my stomach. I pulled up everything we had on human psychology, human culture, human history. I had read these reports before, of course, but I had always skimmed over the parts that did not seem relevant to military planning. Now I read more carefully, and what I found made that knot of worry grow into something much larger. Humans, it turned out, had a bit of a thing about proportional response. Actually, thing was not quite the right word. Obsession, maybe. Pathology, possibly. You see, in human military history, there was this concept called escalation. When you hit them, they hit you back harder. When you hit them harder, they hit you back even harder than that. It was like some kind of deranged auction where the bids were measured in destruction. There were examples throughout their history. Someone sinks one of their ships, they drop 2 atomic bombs. Someone attacks 2 of their buildings, they invade 2 countries. Someone kills their colonists, Well, we were about to find out what they did. I called High Command. I got through to Fleet Admiral Kaldreth, who was Threx's direct superior. "Admiral, I think we may have made an error in judgment regarding the New Haven operation." Kaldreth's face appeared on my screen, all 4 of his eyes narrowed in irritation. "Varkesh, I am very busy." "What error?" "Sir, the humans are mobilizing their entire fleet. All 800 ships. I think they may be planning some kind of retaliatory strike." Kaldreth laughed. Actually laughed. "Let them come. We have 40,000 ships. They have 800. Even if every single human vessel could take on 10 of ours, which they cannot, we would still outnumber them 5 to 1. Let them waste their resources on a futile gesture of defiance. It will make it easier to absorb their remaining colonies." "But sir, have you read the psychological profiles? Humans do not think in terms of proportional response. They think in terms of overwhelming response. They think in terms of making an example. They think in terms of making absolutely certain that whoever hurt them never considers doing it again." "Varkesh, you worry too much. Go back to your reports. Let me handle military strategy." He cut the connection. I sat there, staring at my blank screen, and that knot in my stomach grew into a full-blown sense of dread. The human fleet arrived at the border of Kaldreth space exactly 1 week after the attack on New Haven. 800 ships, all broadcasting the same message on all frequencies. "This is Admiral Marcus Okoye of the United Earth Coalition Defense Fleet. 1 week ago, your forces attacked and destroyed the civilian colony of New Haven, killing 50,000 unarmed men, women, and children. This act of unprovoked aggression will not stand. You have 24 hours to surrender the officers responsible for this atrocity, pay reparations to the families of the victims, and formally cede all territorial claims to human-settled space." A failure to comply will result in immediate military action. The High Command's response was predictable. They sent a battle group of 100 ships to intercept the human fleet, show them our strength, make them turn around, remind them of their place in the galactic order. The battle lasted 11 minutes. 11 minutes! 100 Kaldreth ships against 800 human vessels, and it lasted 11 minutes. And when it was over, all 100 of our ships were gone, destroyed, disabled, or captured. The human fleet had lost exactly 3 ships. 3. I was watching the live feed when it happened. I watched as human fighters, sleek little things barely larger than a single pilot, swarmed our cruisers like insects. I watched as human weapons we had not even known they possessed, tore through our shields like they were made of tissue paper. I watched as our proud warships, vessels that had served the Empire for generations, were reduced to floating debris in a matter of minutes. And then I watched as the human fleet, barely slowed down, continued on its course toward Kaldreth space. The High Command went into emergency session. Every admiral, every general, every strategic officer was called in. I was there too, in my capacity as intelligence officer, standing in the back of the room and trying not to throw up. Fleet Admiral Kaldreth stood at the podium, his face a color I had never seen before. Gentlemen, we have underestimated the human military capacity. However, we still have overwhelming numerical superiority. I propose we mass our forces at the Tarak system and meet them head-on. 40,000 ships against 800. The math is simple. An older admiral named Gresh stood up. Fleet Admiral, with respect, we just sent 100 ships against them and lost all of them in 11 minutes. What makes you think 40,000 will fare any better? Numbers, Admiral Gresh. Pure numbers. Even if the humans have superior technology, and I am not conceding that they do, they cannot possibly have enough ammunition to destroy 40,000 targets. They will run out of missiles. They will run out of energy. They will run out of pilots, and then we will win through sheer attrition. I raised my hand. Everyone turned to look at me. Sir, permission to speak? Kaldreth looked annoyed but nodded. What is it, Varkesh? Sir, I have been reviewing human military doctrine. They have a saying. They say that quantity has a quality all its own. But they also have another saying. They say that if you find yourself in a fair fight, your tactics are terrible. What is your point? My point, sir, is that the humans will not fight fair. They will not engage in a straightforward battle where numbers matter. They will use tactics we have not prepared for. They will exploit weaknesses we did not know we had. They will adapt and evolve faster than we can respond, because that is what they do. That is what they have always done throughout their entire history. They are not the strongest species. They are not the fastest. They are not the smartest. But they are the most persistent, the most creative, and the most absolutely unwilling to give up, ever, no matter what. Silence. Dead silence. Then Kaldreth spoke, his voice cold. Thank you for that inspiring speech, Intelligence Officer Varkesh. Now sit down and let the military professionals make the decisions. I sat down. What else could I do? The Kaldreth fleet massed at Tarak. 40,000 ships, the largest military force ever assembled in the history of our empire. Soldiers from 100 worlds, officers with centuries of experience, weapons that had conquered a dozen species. The human fleet arrived right on schedule. 800 ships against 40,000. Any rational analysis said we would win. Any computer simulation said we would win. Any tactical model said we would win. We did not win. The battle, if you could even call it that, lasted 4 hours. 4 hours of watching everything I thought I knew about warfare get turned upside down and inside out. The humans did not engage us directly. Instead, they released thousands upon thousands of drones, autonomous weapons that swarmed our fleet like a plague. Each drone was small, fast, and carried enough explosive to cripple a frigate. Our point defense systems could handle dozens of them. Maybe even hundreds. But thousands? Tens of thousands? While our ships were busy dealing with the drones, the human vessels hung back and picked us apart with long-range weapons. Missiles that could change course mid-flight, energy beams that could punch through 3 ships in a row, kinetic rounds that moved so fast our sensors barely registered them before they hit. And then there were the hackers. Oh yes, the humans had hackers in their fleet. Cyber warfare specialists who broke through our firewalls, our encryption, our security protocols like they were made of air. Ships that had been firing on the humans suddenly turned and fired on their own fleet mates. Navigation systems went haywire, sending vessels careening into each other. Life support systems shut down, suffocating crews by the thousands. It was not a battle. It was a slaughter. It was an execution. It was a demonstration of just how far beyond us the humans really were when they decided to stop playing nice. When it was over, 32,000 Kaldreth ships were destroyed or disabled. 8,000 had retreated in disorder. The human fleet had lost 23 vessels. 23. And they were still coming. High Command surrendered the next day. They had no choice. The human fleet was on a direct course for Kaldreth Prime, and we had nothing left to stop them with. Nothing. Yeah. But here is the thing that still gives me nightmares. Here is the thing that makes me wake up screaming in the middle of the night cycle. The humans did not want our surrender. They did not want our territory. They did not want reparations or concessions or anything else that would make sense in a normal war. They wanted one thing and one thing only. They wanted Commander Threx and every single officer who had participated in the attack on New Haven. They wanted them alive. They wanted them to stand trial under human law for crimes against humanity. We handed them over. Of course we did. What choice did we have? Threx and 600 of his officers were transferred to human custody. We expected executions. Quick, clean, efficient. But no, the humans put them on trial. A real trial with lawyers and judges and evidence and witnesses. They broadcast the whole thing on every channel, made sure every species in the galaxy could watch. They presented evidence of the attack. They showed footage of the bombardment. They played recordings of the screams of the colonists as they died. And then, after 6 months of proceedings, they found Threx and his officers guilty. The sentence was life imprisonment, no possibility of parole on a penal colony that the humans built specifically for war criminals. Life imprisonment, not death, life. Threx is still alive today, sitting in a cell, thinking about what he did. Thinking about it every single day for the rest of his life. That is the human idea of justice. Make you live with what you did. But even that was not the worst part. The worst part came after the trial. The humans sent a delegation to Kaldreth Prime to meet with what was left of High Command. I was there because someone had to translate and brief and generally try to keep our leaders from saying something stupid. The human ambassador was a woman named Victoria Huang. She was small, barely came up to my chest, with dark hair pulled back in a severe style and eyes that seemed to see right through you. She spoke perfect Kaldreth, which should have been our first warning. She stood before our Council of Admirals and she smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile a predator gives its prey right before the kill. "Gentlemen," she said, her voice pleasant and calm. "Let me make something very clear. New Haven had 50,000 people. Men, women, children, elderly, infants. 50,000 lives. Ended because you wanted to make a point. So we made a point too. We showed you what happens when you hurt us. But here is what I want you to remember. What I want you to tell your children and your children's children. This was us being restrained. This was us showing mercy. Because we could have done so much worse." One of the admirals, I forget which one, found his voice. "Worse? You destroyed 32,000 ships. You crippled our entire military. What could possibly be worse?" Victoria's smile grew wider. "We could have done to Kaldreth Prime what you did to New Haven. We could have turned your capital world into ash and dust. We could have killed billions instead of thousands. We could have wiped your entire species off the galactic map. We had the weapons. We had the ships. We had the will. But we chose not to. Do you know why? Silence. Nobody dared to answer. Because we are not you. Because we value life, even the lives of those who attack us. Because we believe in proportional justice, not indiscriminate slaughter. But make no mistake, if you ever attack another human colony, if you ever harm even one human civilian, we will come back. And next time we will not be restrained. Next time we will not show mercy. Next time we will show you what humanity looks like when we truly decide to make war. Are we clear? We were clear. Oh, we were very clear. That was 3 cycles ago. The Kaldreth Empire still exists, technically, but we are not the same. We are a shadow of what we were. Our fleet is gone. Our pride is broken. Our territory has been reduced to a fraction of its former size. And the humans? They went back to their farms and their museums and their art. They went back to being soft and weak and peaceful. But now everyone knows. Now everyone understands. You can attack the humans if you want. You can kill their people. You can destroy their colonies. But they will come for you. They will find you. And they will make you regret it for the rest of your miserable life. So that is my story. That is how the Kaldreth Empire learned what happens when you mistake human kindness for human weakness. That is how we learned that the most dangerous predator is not the one that looks the most fierce. It is the one that chooses not to kill you because it wants you to remember what it could have done. Now, if you will excuse me, I have some fermented grain juice with my name on it and a lot of memories I need to drown. And if you are thinking about starting a fight with the humans, do not. Just do not. Trust me on this. It is not worth it. Nothing is worth it. So you are still here? You actually want to hear more? Fine. But I warn you, this is where the story gets really interesting. And by interesting, I mean absolutely terrifying in ways that will make you question everything you thought you knew about galactic politics, warfare, and the fundamental nature of humanity. Where was I? Oh yes, the humans went home. They took their prisoners, they made their point, and they left. Just like that. Packed up their 800 ships and went back to Earth and their colonies like nothing had happened. But something had happened. Something big. Something that rippled across the entire galaxy like a shockwave through water. See, the Kaldreth Empire was not the only species that had been watching the humans with a mixture of curiosity and contempt. There were dozens of other civilizations out there, some bigger than us, some smaller, all with their own ideas about territorial expansion and manifest destiny and the divine right to conquer whoever they wanted. The Vrynn Confederation, for example. Big, ugly things that looked like someone had crossed a spider with a tank and given the result delusions of grandeur. They had been eyeing human space for years, making notes about resource-rich worlds and strategic positions. They had a fleet of about 15,000 ships, give or take, and they figured that if the Kaldreth Empire could not handle the humans, well, that just meant we were weak. They would do better. I found out about their plans 6 months after the Battle of Tarak. I was still in my bunker at that point, still trying to drink away the memories, when I got a message on my personal communicator. It was from an old contact of mine, a Vrynn intelligence broker named Skatch who owed me a favor from way back. The message was short. Varkesh. The Confederation is planning something stupid. Thought you should know. Consider my debt paid. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I did something I swore I would never do again. I got involved. I sent a message back. How stupid are we talking? The response came within hours. They are planning to hit the human agricultural colony on Harvest Moon. Quick strike, overwhelming force, then retreat before the humans can respond. They think they can do better than you did. I actually laughed out loud when I read that. Then I stopped laughing because this was not funny. This was the opposite of funny. This was a tragedy waiting to happen. I tried to warn them. I really did. I sent messages to every Vrynn contact I had. I sent detailed reports about what happened at Tarak. I sent psychological profiles of human response patterns. I sent everything I could think of to make them understand that attacking the humans was not just stupid, it was suicidal. They ignored me. Every single one of them. Some did not even bother to respond. The ones who did sent back messages that basically said, "Thanks for your concern, but the Vrynn Confederation is not the Kaldreth Empire. We know how to fight a proper war." So I did the only thing I could do. I warned the humans. Getting a message to Earth was not easy. The Kaldreth Empire was not exactly on speaking terms with the United Earth Coalition at that point. We were more on silent, mutual avoidance terms, but I had to try. I used every back channel, every smuggler contact, every shady information dealer I knew. It took me 3 weeks and cost me most of my remaining savings, but eventually I got a message through to Earth Defense Command. It was simple and direct. The Vrynn Confederation is planning to attack Harvest Moon Colony in approximately 30 days. An attack force estimated at 2,000 ships. Recommend immediate defensive preparations. This is not a joke. This is not propaganda. This is intelligence from a former Kaldreth officer who does not want to see another species make the same mistake we did. Signed, Varkesh. I did not expect a response. I definitely did not expect what I got. 3 days later, a human courier ship appeared in orbit around my bunker moon. A courier ship. The humans had tracked down my exact location, sent a ship through Kaldreth space, and landed it on my doorstep in less than 72 hours. The pilot was a young man named Tom Harris. He had red hair, freckles, and a smile that was way too cheerful for someone who had just violated about 15 different territorial treaties to get here. "Mr. Varkesh," he said, standing at my bunker door like he was delivering pizza instead of classified military intelligence. "I am here to escort you to Earth. Admiral Okoye wants to speak with you personally. You have about 10 minutes to pack." I stared at him. "I am not going to Earth. I am staying right here in my bunker where it is safe." Tom's smile did not waver. "Sir, with all due respect, Admiral Okoye does not really do requests. He does polite orders, and he was very polite when he told me to bring you back. So are you going to pack, or am I going to have to carry you to the ship in your bathrobe?" I looked down. I was, in fact, wearing a bathrobe. I had not changed clothes in 4 days. "Fine," I said. "Give me 20 minutes. The trip to Earth took 6 days. 6 days of sitting in a human ship, eating human food, and trying not to think about the fact that I was voluntarily flying into the heart of the species that had destroyed my entire civilization's military in a single afternoon." Tom was pleasant company, though. He talked about his family, his home in some place called Montana, his girlfriend who worked as an engineer on Mars. He talked like we were old friends going on a road trip, not like I was a representative of the empire that had murdered 50,000 of his people. On the 4th day, I finally asked him about it. "How can you be so calm around me? So friendly? My people killed your people. Do you not hate me?" Tom thought about that for a moment, his hands steady on the controls. "Mr. Varkesh, you did not kill anyone. You tried to warn your leaders. You tried to stop it. And now you are trying to save human lives by warning us about the Vrynn. That makes you okay in my book. Besides, holding grudges is exhausting. Life is too short to spend it hating people. Life is too short to spend it hating people. I am a Kaldreth. We live for 300 years on average. This human kid, who would be lucky to see 100, was lecturing me about not wasting time on hate. Maybe that is the real secret of humanity. Maybe that is why they won. They do not waste energy on things that do not matter." We arrived at Earth on a Tuesday. I know it was Tuesday because Tom mentioned it about 6 times. Apparently Tuesdays were important for some reason I never quite understood. Earth was beautiful. I hate admitting that, but it was. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling in patterns that looked almost artistic. No wonder the humans fought so hard to protect their colonies. If this was what they came from, they probably saw a piece of home in every world they settled. The shuttle took us down to Geneva, to a massive complex that housed Earth Defense Command. I was escorted through hallways filled with humans in uniform, all of them stopping to stare at me. I could not tell if they were curious or hostile. Probably both. Admiral Marcus Okoye was waiting in a conference room that overlooked the city. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with gray hair and eyes that had seen too much combat. He stood when I entered, which surprised me. "Mr. Varkesh," he said, extending his hand. "Thank you for coming. And thank you for the warning about the Vrynn." I looked at his hand, then carefully took it. Human handshakes were firm but not aggressive, a greeting between equals. "I did not think you would believe me," I said. Okoye smiled slightly. "We verified your information through our own intelligence sources. The Vrynn are indeed massing a fleet near the border. Your warning gave us time to prepare. That is worth a lot." He gestured to a chair. I sat. He sat across from me, and for a moment we just looked at each other. Two old soldiers from opposite sides of a war that never should have happened. "Why did you warn us?" Okoye asked. "You owe humanity nothing. In fact, given what we did to your fleet, you would be justified in wanting revenge." I thought about that question for a long time. Then I told him the truth. "Because I've seen what happens when species underestimate you. I watched 32,000 ships die in 4 hours. I watched my entire civilization's pride get shattered like glass. And I realized something, Admiral. The Kaldreth Empire deserved what happened to us. We attacked civilians. We murdered innocents. We earned your wrath. But the Vrynn, they are just stupid. They do not understand what they are walking into. And stupidity does not deserve extinction." Okoye nodded slowly. "So you are trying to save them from themselves." "I am trying to save them from you." He actually laughed at that. A real, genuine laugh that echoed through the conference room. "Mr. Varkesh, I think you and I are going to get along just fine. Now, let me show you what we have planned for our 8-legged friends." What the humans had planned was brilliant and terrifying in equal measure. They were not going to fight the Vrynn. Not directly, anyway. Instead, they were going to let the Vrynn attack Harvest Moon, which they had secretly evacuated 2 weeks ago. Every civilian, every animal, every piece of valuable equipment had been quietly moved to other colonies. Harvest Moon was now empty except for automated defenses and a lot of very sophisticated sensors. The Vrynn would attack an empty colony, destroy a bunch of buildings that nobody cared about anymore, and declare victory. They would go home thinking they had succeeded where the Kaldreth had failed. And then the humans would release the footage, every sensor recording, every video feed, every piece of evidence showing the Vrynn attacking and destroying an empty civilian colony. They would broadcast it across the galaxy, show everyone what the Vrynn Confederation was willing to do for territorial gain. "We do not need to destroy them," Okoye explained. "We just need to show the galaxy who they really are. Let their own people decide if that is the kind of government they want to support." It was psychological warfare on a scale I had never seen before. The humans were not just defeating their enemies militarily. They were defeating them politically, socially, morally. They were making it impossible for the Vrynn to justify their actions, even to themselves. The attack on Harvest Moon happened exactly as predicted. 2,000 Vrynn ships, dropping out of faster-than-light travel in a massive formation. Plasma bombardment of the surface installations. Ground troops deployed to secure strategic locations. A textbook military operation executed with precision and efficiency. And nobody there to see it except automated cameras and sensor arrays. The Vrynn declared victory. Their news networks showed footage of the bombardment, celebrated the triumph of Confederation forces, praised the commanders who had succeeded where the Kaldreth had failed. And then Earth released the full footage. Hours of video showing Vrynn ships bombarding empty buildings. Ground troops marching through abandoned streets, officers congratulating each other on conquering a ghost town. The reaction across the galaxy was immediate and brutal. Other species condemned the Vrynn for attacking civilians, even though there were no civilians there. The Vrynn tried to explain that they had not known the colony was empty, which only made it worse because it meant they had been willing to kill civilians and just happened to get lucky. Within weeks, the Vrynn Confederation was facing internal revolts. Citizens who did not want to be part of a government that attacked civilian colonies. Military officers who resigned rather than follow orders they considered dishonorable. Entire planets declaring independence and requesting protection from the United Earth Coalition. The Confederation collapsed 6 months later, not from military defeat, but from moral bankruptcy. The humans had destroyed them without firing a single shot. I watched all of this from Earth, where I had been given a small apartment and a position as a consultant on alien psychology. Apparently, my experience with catastrophic military failures made me valuable. One evening, about a year after the Vrynn collapse, Admiral Okoye invited me to dinner. We sat in a restaurant overlooking Lake Geneva, eating food I could barely pronounce and drinking wine that was older than most Kaldreth colonies. "You know what the funny thing is?" Okoye said, swirling his wine glass. "We never wanted any of this. The fleet, the weapons, the military power. We built it all because we were scared. Scared that someday we would run into a species that wanted to wipe us out. And then you came along and proved us right. And now?" I asked. "Now we have the strongest military in known space, and all we want to do is go back to farming and making art. But we cannot, because if we do, if we let our guard down, someone else will try what you tried. Someone else will think we are weak. Someone else will kill our people." He looked at me, and for the first time I saw how tired he was. How much the weight of all that power and responsibility had aged him. "Do you know what I wish, Varkesh? I wish your Commander Threx had just talked to us. I wish he had sent a diplomatic message instead of plasma cannons. I wish we could have worked out the territorial dispute over a conference table instead of a battlefield, because then none of this would have happened. New Haven would still exist. Your fleet would still exist. The Vrynn Confederation would still exist. 50,000 people would still be alive. I had no answer to that. What could I say?" He was right. We sat in silence for a while, watching the lights reflect off the lake. Then Okoye spoke again. "We are building something new. A mutual defense alliance. Any species that wants to join can join. The only requirement is that you agree not to attack civilian populations. That is it. That is the only rule. Do not kill innocents. Everything else we can negotiate. Will anyone join?" I asked. 17 species have already signed the treaty. More are asking questions. Everyone saw what happened to the Kaldreth and the Vrynn. Everyone knows that the old way of doing things, the way of shoot first and ask questions never, that does not work anymore. Not when humanity is watching. He raised his glass. "To a better future. One where we solve our problems with words instead of weapons." I raised my glass and touched it to his. "To a better future. I have been on Earth for 3 years now. 3 years of helping the humans understand alien psychology, of teaching their diplomats how to negotiate with species that think differently than they do, of trying to prevent the next catastrophic misunderstanding. The Kaldreth Empire still exists, sort of. We have about 100 worlds left, down from 600. Our fleet is gone. Our military academies teach defensive tactics now, not offensive ones. We spend more on education and infrastructure than we do on warships. Some of my people see this as a defeat, a humiliation, the end of our greatness. I see it as a second chance, a chance to be something better than we were, a chance to build a civilization that creates things instead of destroying them. Commander Threx is still alive, sitting in his cell on that human penal colony. I visited him once, about a year ago. The humans allowed it, said I could speak with him if I wanted. He looked old, broken. His scales had lost their color, his eyes had lost their fire. He sat across from me in the visiting room and just stared. "Was it worth it?" I asked him. He did not answer for a long time. Then, quietly, he said, "I thought I was doing my duty. I thought I was serving the Empire. I thought the humans were weak and we were strong, and that was all that mattered. And now? Now I know that strength and weakness are not about ships and weapons. They are about character, about values, about what you are willing to do and what you refuse to do. The humans are strong because they know when to fight and when to show mercy. We were weak because we only knew how to fight." He looked at me and I saw tears in his eyes. "Kaldreth, do not cry often. It takes a lot to break us down that far. I killed 50,000 people, Varkesh. 50,000 lives ended because I wanted to send a message. And you know what the worst part is? The message I sent was not the one I intended. I wanted to show everyone that the Kaldreth Empire was powerful. Instead, I showed everyone that we were monsters. I left after that. There was nothing more to say. Last week I got a message from director Lisa Kowalski. Yes, that Lisa Kowalski. The woman who had been the administrator of New Haven, the woman whose voice I had heard on those recordings telling Threx that his attack would not go unanswered. She had survived. She had been on a supply run to another colony when the attack happened. She had lost her husband, her daughter, her parents, her friends. Everyone she loved had died on New Haven. The message was simple. "Oh, Mr. Varkesh, I heard you have been working with Earth Defense Command. I heard you warned us about the Vrynn. I heard you are trying to prevent future conflicts. Thank you. What happened to New Haven was a tragedy. But you are helping make sure it does not happen again. That means something. That means a lot. If you ever want to talk, my door is open. Lisa." I cried when I read that. I am not ashamed to admit it. This woman, who had every reason to hate me and my entire species, was thanking me, was offering friendship. But that is humanity in a nutshell. They will absolutely destroy you if you hurt them. They will bring down empires and topple governments and make you wish you had never been born. But if you try to make things right, if you try to be better, they will forgive you. They will help you. They will give you a second chance. I have not taken her up on the offer yet. I am not ready. Maybe someday I will be. Maybe someday I will be able to sit across from her and apologize for what my people did, even though I had no direct part in it. Maybe someday I will be able to accept her forgiveness without feeling like I do not deserve it. But for now, I keep working. I keep trying to prevent the next war. I keep teaching alien diplomats that humans are not weak, they are kind, and there is a difference. Last month, another species, the Torgathi Union, started making aggressive moves toward human space. The usual posturing, the usual threats, the usual assumptions that humanity is soft and easy to push around. I sent them a detailed report. Not classified intelligence, just historical facts. What happened to the Kaldreth Empire? What happened to the Vrynn Confederation? What happens to species that mistake human kindness for human weakness? They backed down within a week. Sent a diplomatic mission to Earth to negotiate trade agreements instead. Smart move. More and more species are learning the lesson. You can be humanity's enemy, or you can be humanity's friend. But if you choose to be their enemy, you better be ready for a fight that you cannot win and consequences that will haunt you for generations. Me? I chose to be their friend. Best decision I ever made. So that is the end of my story. That is how the Kaldreth Empire learned that the most dangerous species in the galaxy is not the one with the biggest guns or the most ships or the strongest warriors. It is the one that knows when to use those guns, when to deploy those ships, when to send those warriors. It is the one that fights only when necessary, but when they do fight, they fight to win. It is the one that shows mercy not because they are weak, but because they are strong enough to choose mercy. It is humanity. And if you are thinking about testing them, about seeing if maybe, just maybe, You can succeed where we failed? Do not. Learn from our mistakes. Learn from the Vrynn mistakes. Learn from the mistakes of every species that thought they could push humanity around. Talk to them instead. Negotiate with them. Trade with them. Be their friend. Because you really do not want to be their enemy. Trust me on this. I know from experience. Now, if you will excuse me, I have a meeting with the ambassador from the Krelton systems. They have been making some concerning statements about human colonies being on their traditional migration routes, whatever that means. I need to explain to them, very carefully and very thoroughly, why attacking those colonies would be the worst idea in the history of bad ideas. It is a living, I suppose. Not the glorious military career I imagined when I was young, but it is honest work. Important work. Work that saves lives. And after everything I have seen, everything I have learned, that is all that really matters. The humans taught me that. Among other things.